Hello and welcome to Roundtable, a series of conversations with CEOs and business owners from the global coffee community. My name is Yannis Apostolopoulos and I'm the CEO of the Specialty Coffee Association. Special thanks to our series sponsor, Storm Barista Attitude. A blend of craftsmanship and high technology, Storm Barista Attitude is designed for the most demanding and experimental baristas, offering total control over brewing parameters. Learn more at stormbaristattitude.com. The coronavirus pandemic has brought the global economy to a halt, having an immediate and long-term impact on specialty coffee businesses and professionals. What are businesses doing to survive in this time of crisis? What are the experiences of those business owners who had to shut down or reduce their operations? Are there opportunities to be seen in those dark times? These are all questions we seek to answer in honest conversations with dozens of leaders in the industry over the next few weeks. This is our final episode of this first season. I want to thank the many CEOs and leaders from across the industry who have so kindly joined us for this series to share their experiences amid this pandemic. The Roundtable will be back soon to continue these important conversations. The final episode of this series features an eclectic group of CEOs from what we are calling allied companies in coffee. Companies that provide a range of goods and services from software, brewing equipment, recruiting, and logistics.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another CEO Roundtable. Today, it's a pleasure and an honor to have a distinguished guest from around the world. And it's a table that it's not dedicated to one vertical. So we have done until today like espresso machine manufacturers, farmers, we have done green coffee traders, large and small roasters. So this table, it's a bit more diverse, I would say, in terms of industries. And we're trying to capture like what's happening in the bigger industry and how parts of our industry that comes together in order to complete the picture that we have seen until today. So it's a pleasure to welcome Julia Leach, the president at Toddy. Hello, Julia. Norbert Niederhauser, who is the CEO of Cropster. Hi, Norbert.
Hey, how's it going?
Enrico Pacorini, the group CEO of Pacorini. Hi, Enrico.
Hello.
And finally, Andy Kerr, founder, managing director of OCR Commodities. Hi, Andy.
Hey, guys.
So thank you for taking the time today. I would like to start identifying like we are now almost in June, and we're on most parts of the world on the second phase of this pandemic. Countries are start opening up. Different countries in different areas of the world are dealing the issue completely differently. But Julia is on the cold brew business, and it's a business that has been growing before the pandemic, and I think it accelerated during that. Norbert has been on the technology side of business and the blockchain, so we need to understand also how technology moved on that. Enrico is on the processing / transporting like most of the coffee in the world, the green coffee of the world, and we want to understand like what are the disruptions there, and if any. And finally, Andy being on the executive search side, like it's on the people side, and we want to understand how the jobs market is moving. So let me start with Julia. Julia, what has been the challenges until today that you've seen coming out of this pandemic and managing through that situation?
Sure. So our business was designated essential. So we're operating out of Colorado in the United States, and many businesses were forced to close. And we had the opportunity to stay open, which in many regards is wonderful because it allows us to continue to generate revenue. But at the same time, the challenge that we really faced was how do we balance the needs of our team members, our customers, and our overall business. We were allowed to stay open as a food service supply chain member, so to speak. And that meant we had the opportunity to serve a lot of businesses who were serving frontline workers, doctors, nurses, et cetera. So, coffee is so important for very many people in the world who need to get up every morning and do their job. So we were very honored to be able to continue to manufacture equipment and coffee filters so that those businesses who were open could continue to serve our clients. But at the same time, that meant we needed to ask our workers to come in. We needed to ask our office staff to continue to work and do their job while managing the needs of their families and their children. And so we opted to continue operations. We did it with a skeleton crew, but it was really challenging because it was a big ask for our team members to continue to work while they were managing the needs of their own families. And our overall revenue went down in the beginning, especially, and we made a commitment to continue to keep everyone employed, keep everyone paid, so that they didn't have to worry while they were helping to serve our customers. So it was a really big challenge to navigate, even week to week, what was the best decision for us to be making. And we really wanted to serve our customers, and we were very fortunate that we were able to do so.
Can I have a follow-up question on this one? Because your business, and I understand the challenges, is on a part of the coffee business that I have the feeling, seeing data from research, that grew during that period, like cold brew. Actually, we've seen demand going, even spiking, I would say, considering how it was growing before COVID. Have you seen that reflected in orders or how you support your customers during that period, or you saw a slowdown in general for the demand?
That's a great question. I think we've seen really a mix. Many of our customers, cafes, mom and pop shops, restaurants, closed down altogether. Many of them continue to offer drive-through or curbside delivery, and for them, cold brew was really essential. It is very easy to brew in advance and to serve in large quantities. Doesn't take nearly as many staff members as espresso-based drinks, for example. So yes, the customers who stayed open were very concerned that we wouldn't be able to fulfill their orders because cold brew was a pivotal part of their menu. And thankfully, we were able to support those businesses. On the opposite side, we did see a growth in the home cold brew consumption. So, whether that's in the grocery stores, people able to go and buy ready to drink, but also on our equipment sales direct to consumers, we saw not just an increase in sales, but an increase in overall engagement. How do I make cold brew? How do I make it well? How do I make it like my coffee shop does until they can open up again? We had a lot of really great conversations with our direct-to-consumer market. And, I think that really helps fuel our team because they realize, not only are they helping, cafes and restaurants, but, they're helping the parents around the world. They're helping the school teachers who are, trying to do remote learning, doctors and nurses. And so, we saw, definitely a decline where the food service was no longer operating, but spikes in various market segments as well.
That's really good to know. So Enrico, if I come to you, you're transporting coffee, you're processing coffee, like you have a bigger understanding of how the market moved during that pandemic, and how challenging was that for your operation that has to do mostly with transportation, and you had to deal with all these curfews and what has happened into many producing countries, but also I don't know what happened with the demand. Initially, we heard that the demand spiked from large roasters in Europe, especially on green coffee, and then slowly they stocked enough, and then it died down. So,
Yannis, it's clear that I share the same feeling of Julia. We have been one of the probably privileged company that has not been forced to shut down, as many of our clients did. Being in the transportation and logistics services, we function as one of the key role in keeping the consumption going. To whatever extent consumption coffee was being consumed. Obviously, the biggest challenges that we had was to guarantee my company business continuity. Obviously, coronavirus hit everybody, and has been discussed amply on a lot of talk shows and a lot of by the media. But I think what was interesting for us was to see how the wave moved and how we had to adapt with the organization to guarantee business continuity, number one, and to guarantee our employee to feel safe. When the corona burst, first in Asia, we have operation in Asia. We run operation in Vietnam. We run operation out of Singapore, between China, Malaysia, Taiwan. We, as most of the European countries and most of the Western countries too, we were a little bit skeptical. I mean, as is, okay, this is going to be hitting Asia. It's a big issue in Asia. It will not hit us here in Europe. Until you wake up the next day and we find ourselves in Italy being one of the most exposed country in the infection curve, with the inevitably repercussion on economy and drastic approach that nobody ever thought that the Italian government could have taken, as shutting down the entire country. One thing is when you hear that the Chinese have the capacity to shut down one, which equals to 60 million people, and you say, okay, but this is China. And then all of a sudden you realize the same thing is happening in Italy, and you would have never believed that this event can happen to your home country in the same fashion for the same amount of people. So what we did was to secure business continuity and to make the best to our employee to feel secure in order for them to continue the job and to continue their task. We offered insurance coverage paid by the company in order to be covered with the expenses should have had any case of corona. And we jumped, and I think none of us was prepared. I think you can speak to any CEO, any company, and none of the company probably that you can tackle and speak to was prepared to deal with the magnitude of the problem and with the creating procedures to safeguard the organization in order to, because it has been so rapid that it caught us a little bit everybody by surprise. But what we did, since Italy was, after China, the most hit country, what we did group-wise, we secured and we immediately put in place group protocols that ultimately were benefit, and probably we were also lucky, but basically we benefited our other operations in Antwerp, in Spain, in the US, in order to adapt all the safety measure prior the corona peak hit those countries. We had 0 cases. We employ about 100 people on direct employment, and we had 0 cases, knock on wood, until yesterday. And of course, business moved on. The biggest, I would say, overall, if I look at the consumer, retailer, from large multinationals to small family-owned roasting companies. It means that we handle the inbound product, we store it. I'm talking green coffee. There is a level of processing in between on the green side, and then we move it to the industry. So we've imported. So they imported through our facility into the respective markets in order to be roasted. If I look at globally, our portfolio, the country that has been hit the most is Italy. Why is Italy? Italy has been hit because it's most of the Italian market. It's constituted by small, but hundreds of small roasters that serve what is called the Horeca, which is the prime market. And because of the shutdown, because people were forced to stay home, you couldn't go to the bar, you couldn't go to the restaurants because there was a shutdown, and a lot of our clients literally had to drastically shut down or close the operations. So, and we see a balance. Some of our clients boost their volumes because they are tailored to the retail business, and basically distributions where you have to go to the supermarket to buy your goods and you buy coffee. So if you are on the supermarket, I mean, then your sales picked up, but the high revenue, which is the Horeca, has been suffered a lot. And we had situations of even 60-70% of less imports in the months of April and starting from March and April and May on the Italian market. On the contrary, some clients of ours boost their business. And if I look at, for instance, the States, we haven't had any issue or because of the clientele that we serve, which are targeting the retail market or the capsules. They even benefited from this event because of increased consumption, because people had to stay home, and then they, instead of going on the street and buy the to-go cup of coffee, they were forced to buy the can or the capsule. So there is a lot of, I would say, mixed elements. You cannot simply go one way because the market is very, I would say, different based on the segment you want to tailor.
So just to follow up on a couple of points that I would like to hear from your side, and I understand Italy has been hit differently than any other country because Italy is mostly out of home consumption, and the to-go philosophy, it's not how the people in Italy were consuming coffee. It was out of their I would say repertoire in how they order or consume coffee. Being mostly an espresso-based market. The question I have though, and I was listening very carefully, you're talking about volumes going down or up based on the business. What happened on the producing countries? Like what happened if you've seen any disruptions on the supply of coffee during that period?
We did, but this is mostly, I would say, we did, and to be honest, we actually didn't pay too much of attention to that because obviously we were very focused on managing the situation in-house. But I would say, if I look at the market, the biggest market that had some hiccups was India, obviously, in terms of supply. We haven't had any issues out of Vietnam, also because, I mean, okay, the crop was over. So in terms of probably repercussion, in terms of personnel for the harvest, that didn't affect. We have to be careful, even though to me, it's premature to make any judgment. As of today, it's Brazil. Obviously, because we are now facing the crop is starting now.
It's now,
and they are virtually in the exponential peak, and so we don't know if there's going to be any impact on the personnel needed to harvest the product. Okay, then we can open that discussion. Brazil is very much modernized. They can use a lot of equipment. They can maintain the distances because the farms are great. I mean, I wouldn't go into that because it's not my field. But I think we had We had cases, a scenario where shipments on inbound has been slowed down, also because it was difficult to find equipment availability. There was an off balance of containers, especially when China has been badly hit. And that had some repercussion on freights and a relocation of empties. But we haven't actually felt a disruption of the supply chain.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That has been very helpful. I wanted to go to Andy because Enrico just mentioned like lack of resources, for example, might be a case in Brazil. But in general, the companies were trying to navigate through this crisis, and were trying to get operations going. They were concerned about the health and safety of their employees, but also the companies were severely hit. So dealing with the jobs market and what is happening out there, like we've seen unemployment in the US spiking to historical highs. Unemployment in Europe and how government dealt with that in Europe was completely different. Like we have seen furloughs, but we haven't seen actually unemployment going up that high as happened in the US. I think government rushed into making sure that there is no major disruptions and social unrest. So what is your feeling on this one, and how do you see the jobs market moving, and what was been your challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess my challenge is on two fronts. One is that as a recruitment company, and obviously a lot of our, over the last 2-3 months, most of the positions that we were working on have, the clients have sort of said, let's put it on hold just for the time being while we work out, whether we need that position or we might need a different position. But then it's also, as you say, on the far more macro issue, you've got the out of home part of the business, which obviously the coffee shops and chains have all closed down completely. But then you've had some of the roasters who have needed more people because they've been roasting more to satisfy the needs of the supermarkets for the at-home consumption. So there's been two parts. I think it's to go back on Enrico's point, it's staggering that we've seen almost every country in the world lock down or react in a very similar manner. And the governments of those countries support in different ways. And you picked up on that yourself, Yannis, that in the US, it's been very different. I think it's been very good in the UK that people have been able to furlough their staff. So I know the various customers of mine have sent their staff home, and they're either paying them full salaries or close to full salaries so that they can get back to work when they are allowed to and when it's right to do so. Which they're starting to encourage now for businesses here. One that I heard that was very interesting the other day was in Singapore. The government have set up a portal whereby if a company hires staff through the government portal, the government will pay that staff member 80% of their salary for the next year. So that will really boost employment. I'm not seeing that anywhere else at the moment. I'm seeing the governments have helped people while in the situation, but not helping them to get once we get out of the situation in the next steps. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, we've seen a massive slowdown. We've also seen redundancies in the business in all areas, on the trade side, on the industry side, and on the retail side. But at the same time, we've also seen some green shoots come through. We've seen obviously some businesses that have done particularly well, and I think it'll just be a question of seeing which countries come out first from this, whether we go into a secondary lockdown, and how prepared we are as business owners and leaders going into a secondary lockdown if there is one. And how we act differently going forward. So
you're working globally. You're recruiting for firms globally. In countries that they have performed, I would say, better on this one, you were talking about like Singapore now, or countries in, I would say, Asia, that they have been through the first phase, or they have dealt with that differently, like Korea. Like, what do you expect to see? When do we expect to see a recovery on I would say the jobs markets, especially on the demand side? Because I guess that at the moment we were saying we need to find the right talents, and there were lack of talents out there. And now all of a sudden, the supply and demand, it's gonna shift the other way. We're gonna have a lot of supply, and the demand is limited.
I agree to an extent. What I would say is that we've already seen it happen. I had to furlough some of my staff as well here, because the roles were on hold, and it was a sensible thing to do. I've started to bring them off furlough now, because we are seeing business pick up again. A number of roles that we'd got through to the kind of shortlist stage, where the next stage. So we're getting very busy on technology at the moment with various Zoom calls and team calls, and working out other ways that we can do this, because we have already 4 companies now that are looking to take it to the next stage, and they're having to make decisions to hire the right talent now. Yes, I think there will be more supply as we open up, but I think there'll also be demand. You know, people have put their demand on hold for these people for 3 or 4 months. The world moves forward, business continues to be made. And so I think there will be demand to pick up probably 70-75% of that oversupply. That's
good to hear, and that's very compelling.
And you're Norbert. Right. We're seeing those it happening in Asia at the moment with some of our roles. We're seeing it in parts of Europe that have started moving. Again, you know, Switzerland has been opened up to a large extent. You can actually go to a restaurant in Switzerland, which seems pretty alien for me here in London at the moment. But yeah, and I guess one of the challenges that we will have as a business is we're very much the end of the recruitment side, that we get to know our customers. If someone calls us up from a plantation in Tanzania saying they want a salesperson to sell their coffee directly to the roasters, one of us will go down to see the plantation, to meet the people, to understand the culture within the company, so that we can find the right people for them. That, for the moment, is going to be pretty difficult. So we're trying to find new and different and ways to be able to overcome that.
So you're talking about technology, and I want to go to Norbert, because Norbert was like, it's technology in coffee, and you have been dealing with the roasting technology for many years, which now I guess, and I want to hear from your side, you were mostly addressed to small, medium roasters, and that part of our business has been affected greatly. But also you have been doing blockchain and things about traceability that I think more people will be looking on this. You were doing experiments with how tasting profiles from certain coffees were distributed through that network. So I'd like to hear more from your side on the challenges and what you have seen over the last couple of months.
Yeah, it was definitely, and it still is, an interesting ride. As with any other companies, it has took us by surprise, but we were able to move all of our stuff into home office. So that was one of the first things we did. March 13th, Friday, everybody was working from home, in our Austrian operation as well as the US. So, and then we have employees in Brazil and China, and of course there was already home office before that. So that was also for us a little bit of a weird new situation. Usually, you know, you meet with people, you have a lot of projects going on, and it's sometimes easier to have those conversations in person. Well, suddenly they didn't happen in person, but they happened on Zoom, on Google Hangouts, technology we used already before. And also because of our company structure, having a company here in the US and a company in Austria, we are very used to. So this is my time for calls. This is what I usually do anyway. So that was the good side, I would say. The drastic thing was to see how roast volumes dropped. So we saw it like this wave coming through. We have customers in around 100 countries in the world. So you could see how the wave moved through, where roasting companies dropped in volume. And then we, of course, always, as I say, on the smaller side, on the medium side, that was definitely the case. And then you could see either medium-sized roasters who built a strong direct customer relationship through online sales. They were thriving. They were growing and roasting more, and they're busier. So that's, I think, was the immediate effect. We also launched a new platform for customers who didn't have a web shop yet. So it's not the biggest deal in the world to create a web shop, but we thought, well, this is something we offer anyway, and we could offer this very quickly and for free to customers who were panicking and say, well, what can I do? It's like, well, it takes a day. We'll help you. We'll set you up as an online store, and then you at least have a presence there. That was actually very well received, and a good number of especially small customers jumped on that. But it's also, I think it was a psychological thing. So it's, Cropster is there for you. So it's not, don't call us, or now we are busy. It's like, no, we are busy for you. We are here for you. And I think that's great. Very important. And it was also important on the other hand side for our staff members. So we also, fortunate enough, we did not have to furlough anybody or terminate any contracts. So software business is a long-term business. It's whatever we would do today really affects us in 6 to 12 months potentially. So it would be a very bad time to actually freeze investments right now. So we're kind of used to those long-term cycles, but it's scary.
It is, and I think it is for everyone. I would like to change a bit the subject here, because I've heard you talking about the market. I heard you talking about what's going on, and I'll start with you, Norbert, this time. Like, how did this feel for you, having to manage your team, their anxieties, and as a leader for your team? How difficult was that?
I would say medium difficult. So I really am very, very fortunate that we have a very good team. It's everybody is very motivated. They love what we do. So our company mission is not just being a technology provider, but really we want to bring the supply chain together. We have grown out of a social mission to help the farmers. And that still reflects not only in our mission statement, which you might or might not find on our website, but it's every employee wants to create something, wants to be part of something. So yes, while it was a shock, first of all, we had like company-wide meetings, of course. We checked in every day. We had happy hours. It was a little bit different in Austria than here because of the timing. So Austria was really from the government from one day to the other shut down. It's like, well, you cannot go to the office, you cannot go anywhere. And which was, I think, also appreciated in a certain sense, that there was a very clear message, but it was also a quite tough message. So what the team there did, they did daily happy hours after work. So it was so interesting. They wanted to communicate, they wanted to hang out together, couldn't leave their home. So yeah, we were part of that happy hour where people talked and brought up their situations. We use Slack channels, so like an internal chat tool, where we had a daily challenge, a daily COVID challenge, which was from, hey, how does your workout look like in days like this? And please include a roll of toilet paper, or what are you cooking today? what is your favorite movie in four icons. So you could use four emojis to describe your favorite movie, and everybody was, interacting, and that really also brought us together. And being flexible. So some people, in general, I would say our work staff was working at least the same, some even more. It's like, well, I'm home, what else should I do? And I love my work, so I could just keep going. So on those ends, we would actually have to manage to not overdo it. And it's like, well, what can you do to kind of enjoy your free time, even if you can't go anywhere and you're used to the computer? And then others were like, well, today I'm having a bad day. And that's normal. That's not, that's not because of COVID. That's, if that happens during a normal work year, I would say, well, go home, relax, and tomorrow will be better. Or you're having a headache, you sleep 2-3 hours, see what's happening. I think it's we try to be a very human company in a way, and that pays really off in times like this.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. So Julia, asking the same question to you, but I would like to paraphrase it a bit. Like, as a leader, how was that experience for you? And do you feel that going through this crisis has changed something on your leadership style, or has made you reconsider something?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I think we were fortunate in that we had some disaster recovery plans made in advance. As Enrico and Andy said, no one was prepared for this. So we had some preparation, that we had a little bit of a guidebook to turn to, dust off. Yep, time for the disaster plan. But things change so quickly and frequently that our leadership team, we were doing the best we could, but we really did not know what we were doing. And I think it helped me be a much more transparent leader, to our team, to say, this is what we're going to do next. Here's why. This is how I'm feeling about it. For me, I really thrive on being with my team, being in the office. I travel extensively, and to be home was challenging. It's not my leadership style to do meetings, Google Hangouts all the time. I'd like to be with people, and so I was pretty upfront about that this is hard for me. But every time we get to have a communication, whether it's face to face like this or on the phone, we were finding we were getting things done. So I think the pandemic shaped me in just being much more transparent and communicating much more frequently, not just with our team members, but also with our customers. This is what we're going through. This is what we're doing, so that we can continue to support you. This is how we're keeping our team safe. A lot of our customers were really interested to make sure that we weren't risking our team's safety to help bring them equipment. So I think that my team probably knows me a lot better than they did 3 months ago. I tend to be a pretty private person, but I've, they've seen my kids, they've seen my dog, they've seen my house. And I think what we're seeing is that the team overall is stronger. And, we've been able to tackle some really big projects that had been put on hold and postponed. We haven't been preparing for trade shows. We haven't been preparing for client visits or vendor visits. So we've been able to really focus on some ambitious projects that we didn't think we'd be able to get done by now. And so there's also a lot of sense of accomplishment in what we have been able to do together as a team. And I think we're stronger for it.
Yeah, I can easily relate with many things that you've said there, and I've seen Enrico laughing when you were speaking. So, how was that for you, Enrico? And how did that, I would say, shape your leadership style?
I was laughing, not in disrespect to Julia, not at all, but on the contrary, because I endorse and I share a lot of things that she said. It's my style as well to be hands-on. It's my style to have a rather than talking to a person, I'd rather jump on a plane and go and see the person. If I want to see, if I want to have my own assessments, I don't only rely on my safety and auditing compliance manager, but I want to actually see it with myself. So this is a positive and a negative aspect. I mean, because you tend to go a lot into the details, and sometimes that, in a way, undermine to a certain extent the role that your manager has. But it's a style. I always try to correct the style, but that's who we are. My what changed is it's pretty much what happened to Julia, because I mean, it's the first months, the first couple of weeks has been extremely tense because as a CEO, I had to ensure that all my organizations were going to, well, first of all, that our corporate guidelines were appropriate and not a piece of paper to be sent out, but at some ground and basically could have a direct effect without actually cementing the organization. And that basically was a lot of, say, stress in order to understand and to discuss and to put them in place and to ensure that the management below were going to enforce it, and not only enforce it, but the people were that were receiving the guidelines were understanding that it was not only an imposition, but it was a way to safeguard their job and to guarantee business continuity. And so it was a learning curve, because we literally had a very short time to implement. Once that wave basically passed, I agree in the sense that I learned and I was forced, like everybody else, to interact with the screen. And the interaction with the screen, which I always disliked because I like the personal approach, shaped me in a way that I in order to be efficient, I had to be more concise, to the point, and structured. So there is always the other flip of the coin. Will this be a tool that we will be using for the future? Yes, of course. Of course, what we realized is that, and this is pretty much common sense, but sometimes you have to hit, the wall to realize it or to take some actions. Our spending in travels was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, that basically has been cut down by 100%. Business is still going. We still can manage the relation. I can still manage the relationship with my team. My team can manage the relationship with their own client. And for sure, for everybody within my organization, it was a proof that yes, it's important to travel. Yes, it's important to meet the people, but probably not to the level you were doing before. Probably you can do it 50% less, 40% less. So, and this has to be evaluated now that we're gonna gear up back to whatever normality. We will have to live through it. But it has been a challenging period and with a lot of insights.
That's really interesting. And I'm going to go to Andy, but I want to stick on that point that you just said, Enrico, because it's really interesting. Yes, out of this, we're going to see that we're reducing our carbon footprint big time and the expenses that has to do with traveling. But on the other hand, and that's the lead to you, Andy, it's the soft points that we will be missing, because the current customers, we had the relationship. We had developed that relationship during the years on one-on-one interactions, and it's just not just business, because behind every business there are people, and we have those soft interactions, and we are, at the end of the day, we're in coffee. And coffee, it's like the epitome of socializing. Like, It's the drink that you want to have together with others. It's the time that you relax and you open up your heart, your mind. You just take the 2 minutes, 3 minutes to discuss something outside of business with someone else. And I think this is critical. So we're going to lose those soft points, and those soft points were the ones that were differentiating your businesses in acquiring new customers as well. And I think that will be the challenge to be found, and the balance to be found in what will be in the future kind of the new normal. And that's my personal view, and I'm sorry to hijack a bit of your time here. So Andy, talking about people and soft skills, like what has been your challenges out of this one, and as a leader, and what you see to other leaders, because you have the opportunity to interact with a lot of leaders.
Yeah, and I guess going back, I've often said that my favorite part of being a coffee trader or broker in the past was the coffee people, and it's the people within it. And so I'm very fortunate to have carved out a career or a job post trading where I only deal with the people, and I don't have to bother about the beans and all that sort of stuff other than drinking it, which is great. So it has been a challenge, not seeing the people and not visiting clients and not visiting prospective clients and not interviewing. You know, we've got this boardroom downstairs here where it's just got a constant ebb and flow of people usually coming through and seeing us, candidates or clients wanting to discuss the structure of their companies or bits and pieces. And so, yeah, that I've found a massive challenge, having to sit back at home sharing my bandwidth on my Wi-Fi with my 4 kids, all trying to homeschool or do whatever they're doing. My neighbours have got to know me quite well because I now walk up and down outside the house and down the road on the phone, talking to people. One of the things that I've found is really a positive from that, however. I've got a feeling, and talking to a lot of my clients and talking to other people and speaking with you, Yannis, a lot of the it seems that there's collaboration is a big word that has come to the fore. I think governments have collaborated. I think companies have collaborated. Customers and suppliers have had to collaborate and say, hey, listen, I might be late on paying this because of this issue, or can we talk about that? And I've felt one thing that's been lovely is that as I've called up clients to have a chat with them, it hasn't been calling them, asking them, hey, who are you hiring this month? What are you going to be doing? You know, can we help you with your business or whatever? It's just been, hey, how's it going? How can we help? What can we do? What can we talk about? What challenges are you facing? And it hasn't been for business. It's been for collaboration and for mind sharing and discussions, which I've found a lot of the phone calls I have are far more open in the last kind of 10 weeks than prior to that. So I've found that's been super, the collaboration. The challenges, well, I haven't had to really, it's an altogether different challenge from Enrico and Julia and Norbert, who've continued to manage their staff and their teams. You know, I furloughed most of mine at the time when we could, and it's been more engaging with them and having a chat with them outside of work, if you like, rather than on work issues. I think it's fair to say that Mark and Joe and myself, certainly the 3 key pillars, have really missed the banter in the office. And also, just, you know, they'll overhear me talking to a client, or I'll overhear them talking to a client, and that just creates conversation which creates ideas. So I've missed that.
That's very common for most of us. So I want to go to the last topic of this discussion that has to do with opportunities. Like, where do you see opportunities if you have experimented on something like and it worked or failed? Like, how do we see the industry in the world saving after this? And this time I would like to start with Enrico. So where do you see opportunities coming out of this crisis?
I'll be pretty quick on this one. I don't see any opportunity in today. I haven't seen for what concerns my business, our business, any opportunity today. Probably is early, but I think we had to deal with the challenges that we discussed before. That's already is an opportunity that we already tackle in terms of the organization, in terms of affiliation from the personnel to secure to get the business going. Overall, if I look at the market, which has been highly affected, which is Italy, because of the shutdown of the country and the impact on the consumers, I'm very eager to understand now phase 2. Now that actually yesterday, June the 3rd, basically we have no lockdown anymore, and we are free to travel and we are free to move, and always with the distance and so forth, that the industry are gearing up and going back into the production, and slowly consumption is going to get back. I want to see actually the magnitude of the damage, if any, and which car the economy and the client that we serve are going to have, and what does this then impact on my business. So I think I'll be able to reply more adequately to this question probably in 2 months from now.
I'll keep you on that promise.
Thank you.
Norbert, so Enrico is the very traditional part of the business, it's like transportation, logistics. You're on the technology part of the business. So what have you seen as opportunities rising out of that?
I think there's a lot, and especially in our field. Everybody, and as Enrico said, I'm looking at the screen now more than I did before. And well, the screen represents technology, and that's our field. That's what we do. If people need a more efficient data flow, if people need a more distant protocols. I mean, we're looking at cupping competitions, which were run with international judges coming together in one room. That cannot happen anymore. But that does not mean that those competitions or those events cannot happen. It just need the correct or the right like technological infrastructure. That's what we have built the last 13 years. So we are well positioned, I think, and we are very excited about that. It is also an opportunity from a personal side, where people were, you know, very, very linked to, no, I want to be with my cupping team in the room. I want paper. Suddenly they realize, because of everything has changed or is different, at least for now, there's an opportunity to do something I've never done before. Oh, I couldn't imagine taking a digital cupping form in my hand. Well, now they do. And now they realize, oh, this synchronizes up. Oh, this is like, I can compare my notes with my other partner who sits in a different city or in a different laboratory. And this kind of makes sense. This can work. So I see all those opportunities from a human side where suddenly people try new things out. And then there's certain needs, of course, and those needs can be met sometimes, not always. I'm also agreeing with Enrico. We also travel. We also go to our customers. That we hope we can do again, because that connection is not the same. But certain things I think we can do with technology.
That's really interesting. I think coming out of this, as you were saying, what you're going to get and what the industry is going to get, it's something that we were lacking. We're a very traditional industry. And what this will push in change of technology would be big data. Like, now people are going to start using technology and we're going to have access to data. Because until today, we were trying to get data, but because we're a very traditional industry, we didn't have that. And I don't know what that will bring in the future in terms of AI or other technologies that will come in to take advantage of this data to change the game here. And you're well positioned on this one for years, I guess. Following that, Andy, we heard the Norbert and Enrico. Where do you see opportunities opportunities that comes not only for the industry but also for people, because the economy will start, I would say, rebounding, and we're going to see opportunities. But where will these opportunities be?
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I think there will be a lot of opportunities to come. One of them will come from the realization of some of the leaders and CEOs and business leaders that have been forever that you can't work from home. You have to be in an office to work, and they've realized that actually, you know what, people have managed it and it has worked, and to a more or less extent. I think one of the big changes that we'll see is more flexibility on where people are located, and from a people movement perspective, you know, no longer will we have a company maybe in the UK saying to me, you know what, I'd prefer someone who's got a European passport rather than a non-European passport because it'll be easier to onboard them, or you know, the visa issue might be a bit difficult. Well, perhaps you know, you can hire the right person for your business that happens to be in India or Singapore or the US, and they can stay where they are. So I think that's quite an interesting thing that I think people will realize that there is that flexibility far more. Another thing, you know, I've worked on for the last 3 months, you know, for a long time now, as you know, I've you know, looked at the possibility of using technology more, but also bringing communities together with technology, and so we've been looking at building out things such as job boards that are a lower cost entry for people, rather than the executive search, which they'll still need for certain roles, but other roles, if you can help people get on the ladder, or help people in jobs in a more cost efficient and technologically savvy way, then why not? And the other thing is education. I think one of the biggest advances and the ways that you can help farmers, you can help traders, you can help roasters, everyone in the entire supply chain, and sustainability is through education. And you know, obviously the SCA do a fantastic job on a lot of aspects of that, and I'm looking at ways of potentially putting some education. I'm fortunate enough to not know a lot about much, but to know lots of people who know loads about things. So I know experts in trading and international trade. I know people experts in logistics and supply chain, in arbitrations and disputes. And so getting some of that knowledge base down, and perhaps having an academy that people can be helped throughout their careers with modules, that's another area that I'm excited to be involved in as well. So actually taking time out of my day job and looking at other ways in which we can really help people within the business, from onboarding them as a barista through to them getting excited about where the coffee comes from, to getting interested in trading, international trade, and then the logistics and supply chain side, all the way through to this groundbreaking technology that Norbert deals with, and everything else. It's an exciting place to be, and I think as the economies grow and bosses realize that they can be more flexible with where people work, and they can hire different people from different sectors, and cultures of companies change, I think it'll all be to the benefit of our industry in the end.
That's really interesting. But the only thing that I would say on this one, it's not just companies to change philosophy, because we in SCA, we have been trying to hire people all over the world for these years. It needs governments to put the structure in place to allow us to do that more easily, because even though we want to hire people around the world, sometimes the barriers are so high that you can't. And what would be really interesting for me is, how do you actually create a company culture where you're living on the cloud and you're missing that face-to-face interaction? Like, I think that this period is teaching us a lot, but we're gonna have to look more into that. So yeah. Coming to you, yeah, sorry.
So I agree. I agree, but I think also the way that we've seen things like Microsoft Teams or other Slack channels and things like that, the advancement that we've seen just in the last 5 years has been phenomenal. That I think you're right. Building a culture over these things is difficult, but I think Norbert explained earlier with the toilet roll challenge and things like that, that it's still possible.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Julia, coming to you, and to close that round, where do you see opportunities for the industry coming out of that, and have you experienced something that seems to be like the way forward?
Sure. I've seen a lot of collaboration. As Andy was saying, a lot of times in the past few months, we've been, picking up the phone to just have a conversation with clients and vendors to find out how they're doing, how we can better work together, how we can support their business, how's their family holding up. And I think it, as you said previously about these soft touch points that, we're used to doing this at trade shows or in restaurants or in cafes. We're learning that, now more than ever, it's really important to understand each other and learn from each other. And there's a lot of opportunities to collaborate that I've seen, in the industry, competitors coming together. I've seen, my team learning, bringing ideas from our customers that we hadn't thought of before. And so, I think structure is becoming a little bit more nebulous, that we're used to making a plan and executing a plan, making a plan and executing a plan. And although I think that's still very critical, I also think that we want to intentionally leave room for creativity, for collaboration, for new ideas, and plan for some open space where that's inviting customers to contribute to maybe a brainstorming session with our team, or having projects that are designed specifically to collaborate with other people in the industry, or even in the community that's in a different industry. So I've seen a lot of creativity coming out of this, and in part because it's been required, but also because people are realizing that people is really what it's about. It's not just about business and making money and being competitive. It's about, how do we get through this? And I think that's really inspiring. In addition, I think we've learned, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this, is just listening. Having a platform and educating is very important. And like others, we're working to move our education materials online and doing more webinars and online training events. But at the same time, there's so many things that we have to learn from the experiences of our customers, and we've already changed some of our product development goals and how we're investing in research and development based on some of the feedback of people we hadn't thought to ask before. So, listening and collaborating, I think is hopefully going to be a common theme that stays.
And with that very, very positive ending, and thank you, Julia, for that, for listening and collaborating. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. It has been really, I really enjoyed that panel. It was very insightful for me. So I would like to thank you all so much, and wish you a very great day. Thank you all.
Yannis.
Thank you very much. Thank you.